Hello. What's going on, Mr. Jakob? Now I want to say that all the time because since I know
Jakob.
Jakob.
Yeah.
It's not Jacob?
In Denmark, it's Jakob.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So maybe I'm
So
just
you and
going
I-
with that, actually, just to be exotic. I don't know, you can
We like that.
Denmark exotic, I think, but
We like
maybe
that, we like
the
that.
closest.
So you and I are in the same time zone, right? It's 8 p.m. for you too.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. You're in Spain?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Like that J and the Y thing in Spanish, right?
The what?
J and the Y, because I got a buddy of mine that he's Puerto Rican and he won't say Yankees, he said Yankees.
Yankees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like in Spanish, Jacob would be Jacob. Like Jacobo.
Jakob. Yeah.
Jacob.
Yeah. Jakob. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, gals, we are going to go ahead and kick it off. I got 11:02, and I know we have quite a few people registered. I don't know if they're on time zone differences or well. We've got Basil here. We've got Silvio.
Summertime.
Could very well be. Listen, it's an intimate call. It's an intimate call. We'll probably have a bunch of folks join us here as we continue on, and I'll be adding people as we go to the deal. So I know that, let me go ahead and hit record because I'm going to do some stuff here. Hit record on this computer.
Recording in progress.
All right, folks, welcome to this month's Meaningful Man AMA, June 2025. Lots have happened since we were on our last call together. We have had this launch into the wild. So thank you for everybody that that just had a lot to do with getting this out there. I know Jacob had, he carpet bombed LinkedIn pretty much, had quite a few people. Had some folks over there that gave us some love, so we appreciate that. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for their help, their support, and just made it a #1 bestseller in new releases. Matter of fact, today I noticed we're #1 in direct marketing and a couple other little areas. So, again, a lot of work goes into putting this thing together. We started it in looks like I think in October is when I started the book. And from there on, it's just been it's been a lot, which has been fun. So with that, we've got a bunch of people. Hey, Cassie, good to see you. I have to append the Meaningful Man. I like how you do it like the Meaningful Man, but then you also put the Wolf Man in there. That's perfect. Thank you so much. So yeah, we've got a lot going on. I think a bunch of you are already in the Deals Over Clients group. And I put this call together for folks to be able to jump on because they could have questions, answer, dive in between. I'm going to do that regardless because we're still going to make this, I'm going to make this call recording available in the DOC group. And I think a lot of people also are going to be expecting the replay of it. Basil's on here. I know he's in the Deals Over Clients group. Silvio, I don't know that you're in the group. I bet you probably are. That group's growing pretty quickly. We're almost about 100 people in there. So I expect as we continue and things keep going, it's going to continue to rock and roll, and we'll get a lot more folks in that group. But with that, this call, we're going to talk about some cool stuff. So Deals Over Clients. This was, and again, at the behest of making sure I don't offend those who have birthed children. I've never birthed a child, but I feel like I have with this book. Right? Cassie, I know you're a mom, so that's why I'm treading lightly there. I know that's no small feat. But it has been absolutely a wild ride here, and I've learned so much just in this process of, writing the book, and now, of course, that we're into the promotion of the book. A lot of people say, well, when did you start the book? It was in October, and I was like, yeah, when I started writing it, but it was actually like the 10 years prior, right? That took all of that experience and wisdom and things that I had to garner and challenges I had to go through to be able to, summarize it into this thing that as Deals Over Clients. By the way, I know we had David Main just join us, Silvio, Basil. If you guys, if you will, you can go ahead and add questions in the, you can either put it in chat or you can put it in the Q&A that you have. And I know Hazelnut. Hopefully, I'm saying that correctly. I'm going to pretty much tackle what we had talked about in deals over clients in the actual group. So, a couple of things I want to do just for folks, especially those who are going to be watching the replay. Everyone that's here right now is pretty much what I would consider kind of like our core. There's a whole bunch of other people. We have a few different assets. I want to make this clear for everybody because it might be a little confusing. Had one gentleman that was a little confused this morning. So what I've done is I have the Deals Over Clients book, of course, out now on Amazon. I'm going to get used to doing that promo, by the way, all the time. So now that I've got the book out, one of the resources that is inside the book is the Deals Over Clients school community. So the goal behind that group is to help people get their first deal, not necessarily cash flow the whole deal because there's a lot that goes into that side of things, but get that first deal under their belt. And someone posted, Peter, by the way, in the group, he had posted this morning, he got his first deal. So I woke up to that. I thought that was pretty cool. And, sounds like a real solid first deal to grab hold of. And so once people comes into that group, they get access to the Dealmakers Toolkit. They get access to the 8 different case studies that are in there. We're going to be adding more. We've got more people that have come on board. Now, what happens is I've got a deeper sense of working together here that happens after deals, after clients. And so today we're on the Meaningful Man newsletter. This used to be the only way, as many of you know, used to be the only way to get access to me. I would do these AMAs once a month, and of course I'd have some kind of breakdown on a case study of one of my own campaigns. We're going to start breaking down other people's campaigns, by the way. We're having a lot of people that are having success. I'd rather it be about them rather than just me and my stuff. But that's going to be a lot of fun as we continue moving forward here. And the newsletter also has a lot of resources. It's got a very rich, I would say, vault of other case studies and tools and insights and things that I've had over the years, because it was the only place that I had to kind of share those insights. Now, what I ended up doing, if somebody wants to come in and just be a part of the newsletter, get some of the behind the scenes things, be on one AMA a month, that's cool. It's $20 a month, or I think $150 for the year. But that used to be the only way to get access to me. Now what we have is the Meaningful Man school community, and that's where we go real deep, and I've got a ton of different resources there available. I've got what's known as the Flood Maker, which is how I pretty much run all of my initial campaigns now. All of my test campaigns I use a Flood Maker on. I've also got inside that group, we've got a pretty thriving community there. Many of you all are here right now that are on it. Some of you that are here are not. But that community is pretty badass. We have a lot of really cool stuff in there, and we kind of go deep. We've got a lot of transparency. We've got a lot of cool people doing things in there. And so that group is really designed for action implementation. I've also got what's known as the Symptoms to Sales AI Tool Suite. How many of y'all saw that big nasty post I did today with all the tools that are coming on top of what's already in there? I've been having way too much fun with that stuff. But we've got lots of resources. We've got AI tools that write our emails, that write our Google Docs. Now we'll be grading our Google Doc offer pages, designing offers. We've got so many different things. As a matter of fact, the Creator Finder, which is a tool that we use to find creators, we're going to be adding in an outreach tool on that so that a lot of that stuff's not left up to guess. It's not perfect. None of these things about AI are perfect, by the way. They're still going to require little, what I would consider human common sense, right? And so you're still going to want to tweak those little things. But that group, the Meaningful Man School community, is where we really dig in. We cash flow deals. People can drop stuff in there, feel safe to be able to drop whatever and get feedback and on actual campaigns. Coffee dates. We have the coffee date audit tool so that when you're going on coffee dates, you know, sometimes what I know is I went a long time doing coffee dates and not knowing if I was doing them well, if I was doing them terrible. We didn't have Firefly and all the different tools that we have now to be able to record those coffee dates. And now what I can do is I can take the transcript, I can feed it into the coffee date audit tool, and it'll tell me where I went right, where I ran up on the curve, what I can do better, where I missed opportunities to go deeper and such. And so we have all of those tools that are a part of the Meaningful Man community. And we've got a bunch of other really cool stuff. And as a sidebar, I have what's known as the Quiet Little Launch, which is also a separate campaign. Everyone here has their hands on that. And that's where traditionally we only work with people that have offers already that are working. But the Quiet Little Launch gives us an opportunity to work with creators and experts and individuals that don't have offers. And we can go in there and we can run the Quiet Little Launch without any risk, really, in our time and effort. Chad, I know you're running one right now, or you're about to push go on one. And again, it's an excellent way to run a test and not run yourself up against the curb and still cash flow the heck out of these. I've been doing the Quiet Little Launch since 2016. Probably done millions in sales with it since, and had a lot of fun with it. Matter of fact, the case study that's in the Deals Over Clients group that I did is on the Quiet Little Launch. It's on a $500,000 campaign that we did with about a 5,000 person buyers list. So if you want to know what I'm talking about, you can go in there, but that's something completely separate and available. So, but I wanted to break down what the world looks like when you come in and understand that we have other opportunities for people who just want to kind of get up to their ankles and be on these calls each month. This month's a little special just because I'm going to be breaking down the book and answering questions and going through different things there. But otherwise, the rest of the Meaningful Man community itself is the school community is where we have the cash flowing opportunities and the mentoring and the coaching and the feedback. And we've got some really cool people in there that are making some really bold moves. Many of you have seen inside Deals Over Clients, Chris Dyson. He dropped his little small $675,000 case study, or at least his result. He didn't do a full case study. I'm going to see if I can twist his arm and do one at some point. But he's in that group, and it's just, as many of you know, he's an incredible support and help and insight on campaigns as well. So that's the first thing I want to get out of the way. There's that pathway of working together inevitably down the road as we continue to move forward in our Deals Over Clients. So I want to cover, okay, go ahead, Mr. Gomez, you go first. Saw your hand up.
Sorry, I kind of pushed something I shouldn't have done. Forget about it. Sorry.
Got it. Okay, no problem. Chad, no problem. I know you got to bounce here in about 30 minutes. Cool. So I want to just again, just because I know it's a conversation I was having in the group, and if there's anyone on here that has feedback on this, I'm certainly going to drop my feedback on it. Basil, he's in Deals Over Clients. He just came in. I know he's doing someone else's program where they do text and they reactivate leads and all those sort of things. And so I did a little bit of research with Basil, and with Basil, he's doing a lot of the local marketing. It's not my jam. I'm not a big fan of the local marketing stuff. I've done a lot with that in the past. As a matter of fact, there's a very large company where I've done, I helped them sell about $100,000 a month in local lead gen program that they were selling. It's about $5,000. And I went in through cold email, not cold email, but cold tapping, which means they were just simply running ads, and I was just taking all the overflow that showed up in their chat. Ended up doing about $100,000 a month in sales with that, and they did local lead gen. And I actually did take their program and started doing some local lead gen for some friends of mine locally. Just one, I wanted to kind of wrap my head around it even more and understand it, see if I liked it, and of course I hated it. So it just wasn't my jam. I didn't enjoy it. And I want to just reiterate, by the way, and this is for a lot of us here, and 10-4 Alex. So if you have questions, by the way, we'll want to get those in before you drop off. But I know that for me and myself, like, I want to focus in areas that are fun for me. Like, I just ran a little crypto offer. It wasn't the reason I liked it initially, and I wanted to do it was because, one, I want to stress test our Floodmaker AI for tapping. Number two, it was unique because he was teaching yield farming, which is not kind of like, if you look at a lot of the crypto, it's kind of like day trading, right? It's a lot of volatility. You're trying to, the stops and the puts and all that kind of stuff, and that's not my jam. but this was way more interesting to me. So I took it. Now I ended up killing the deal because there wasn't the affinity with the list. But I like working on stuff that's interesting to me, stuff that's fun for me, things that people that I see what they're doing. It's fun. I do all of this stuff here because it's fun. My main jam is doing the campaigns. That's quote unquote been my day job. Now it's taken a little bit of a backseat because of the book and the promotions and everything else. But keeping it the main thing is the main thing right now. So my focus is back on doing campaigns, finding those big partners that I can go deep with. But I'm working, like another one is a self-publishing company. I find that fascinating. Why do you think? right now, because of what all I've went through. But I'm fascinated because I can see now where I've got a lot more books in me. I've got probably 2 more books as part of this series that'll eventually come out. And then I've got a Meaningful Man book that I want to put out. And I may append that, thanks to Cassie, with Woo Man. So, but ultimately, do you see where I'm going with this? Like, I want to put my focus. Now, here's another thing. I love, as you all know, I love video games, right? Like, I'm a big Battlefield fan, huge Fortnite fan now, thanks to Brandy, my fiance. What? Exactly, that was her in the background. And so, but would I put my focus on doing flood makers with gamers? Not necessarily, because that's not really the best combo, right? I'm not saying you can't monetize YouTube gaming channels with the means of which we bring to the table. You certainly could. But for me, I look at like, well, there's a lot less friction, because with gamers, they're not selling courses. I like courses. For me personally, I like courses, I like masterminds. That's kind of like my jam, right? And as now, what I'm also starting to play with, by the way, kind of giving you some insight, is because I love the AI thing so much, and I've gotten pretty decent now at like this prompt engineering, which is why I've come out with so many tools now, because some of them are it's fun for me to do. But now, guess what? Between myself and Jim Nicewanger, many of y'all know him, we might be partnering up and doing some things. We've got a deal right now that we're partnering up on someone that's got 600,000 people on their email list and creating tool suites for their books, right? Because the way I'm bringing this idea, and so what I thought about was like, well, we can do that for books. We can do that for people who have courses, especially people that have courses that are not in the business realm or the business niche, right? They could be all kinds of other options and niches out there. It could be pet niches, right? And if we could bring, say if somebody has a coaching niche for dogs, like how do you coach dogs, for an example, we could bring AI tool suites to people so that they could have access to ways of getting faster, more efficient results, right? So now, I love dogs, don't get me wrong, but I probably wouldn't pick that niche, right? But there are so many, there's leadership, there's publishing, there's like so many different areas out there where now I've got another option to go in and say, hey, I love working with AI tools, and, hey, could I pay you to create an AI tool suite for your, quote unquote, let's just say for your coaches, so that they can get better results, which ultimately gets you more testimonials, which drops the ad per cost per call for your programs, for your additional programs, right? So think about that for a moment. I'm taking what is interesting to me, especially right now. And again, AI tool stuff is the hot button right now. What's not going away? Making offers, right? So notice how my focus is on making offers, and it's with, yes, I can do it with deal making through offering to leverage people and cash flow their trash can assets with email campaigns. As you know, that's been my jam for 10 years. Now I can do it with AI tool suites, right, which I find interesting, but there's still an offer attached to that, and we're still taking things off people's plates. So for Basil, my feedback is if, look at other areas of your life. Don't be so focused on, where do I have to make money? Because that's not my focus in any of the stuff I do. And again, learning this from Travis, my focus now is on what brings me the most joy. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't frustrate the shit out of me on a day or two, right? It's certainly not the case. Because, yes, I am completely capable of taking myself a little too seriously on occasion, right? But at the same time, like, this is the challenge. Like, I love putting my focus on stuff that brings me joy. If it challenges me, that's okay, because it's just sharpening me. The reason why I like meeting here together, like what we do, is because, iron sharpens iron, man sharpens man, right? And so we can learn from these experiences. That's why the Meaningful Man School Group is so powerful, because in there, I love to see where people are just being very transparent. They're sharing stuff on the table. They're not afraid. They're not afraid of being judged. They're not afraid of going, looking silly, like I don't know what I'm doing. Half the time, I don't know what I'm doing, right? Because I'm stepping into new areas as well. But I happen to be bringing the wisdom and the experience that I've had over many, many years of both, online and offline, the stuff that serves me. So Basil, my focus, and again, if you have any feedback or questions, my focus for you is start thinking more broadly, like, what is it that you love to do? What hobbies do you have? What areas do you like to, if you didn't have to work, and you didn't have to focus on, quote unquote, making money, because that's not my focus, what would you be focusing on? Because chances are you're going to have a lot more fun figuring it out. You're going to have a lot more fun cash flowing it, and then inevitably, money, quote unquote, is the natural consequence of focusing on what brings you joy. Does this make sense? Does anybody have anything they want to add to that, by the way? For Basil? No? Cool. Y'all are not shy. I don't know what y'all do. The focus is not money, Basil. And, Basil, I'll say I went to your Facebook, and, like I mentioned in the group, there's no personality there. If you take a look at something like Travis's 5 Ps, if you look at his Make 'em Beg to Buy book, which is, Travis was he wrote the foreword of my book. One of the big things is his personality. It's why I share that, I love to play Fortnite. I'm 52 years old, I play Fortnite. Am I ashamed? Hell no, right? Chad and I have got some commonalities in areas and entertainment. Like another big thing I'm a fan of is Warhammer 40K, right? Now I don't play the game itself, board game, but I have the video game, and of course I love the lore. I've got some of the books. I watch a bunch of stuff on YouTube. Warhammer 40K to me is just fascinating, and I love it. Henry Cavill's going to be coming out with a series and a movie on Amazon with it and everything else, and featuring in it. So it's like, if I wanted to, yes, I could go into that realm, I could go into that world, and I could monetize that with deal making. So that's where I'm trying to have you go, is to think about this. He said, hey, Tony, I actually sent this email a few days ago to a relationship coach on YouTube. Maybe you can give me your analysis. Okay, so if you're interested in dating, Basil, then that's cool. Another way to help your clients. Hey, Steve and Dan, been following your YouTube channel and work for a while. I noticed you've got over 1,020 plus videos now, plus your book, podcast, and your Diffuse the Divorce Bomb course. What if your clients and students had, okay, so I'll just tell you right away. Here's my analysis of this. Let me see if I can share this with y'all. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. I don't think you'll be able to see it. But I'm going to go ahead and finish reading it so everybody can have some context here, and then I'll get
It's in the Q&A. Anybody can see it in the Q&A.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah. So if y'all want to see what I'm reading here. So been following your YouTube channel. So here's what happened, Basil. You're going straight for the throat, right? What if your clients and students had 24-hour access to a personalized AI custom trained on your materials, YouTube, courses, book, to help them quickly implement what you teach? Like, it's totally going into pitch mode, right? They could chat privately on demand. So you're just like carpet bombing them with a lot of this stuff, which is a pitch. You really wouldn't have to do anything or lift a finger. I would handle 100% of the entire setup. So you're just having the entire conversation by yourself, and then hoping that they'll go, yeah, cool. There's pieces of this that I like, but here's where you go off the rails. And where I think you could improve upon this, by the way. been following your YouTube channel and work for a while. I noticed you've gone over 1,020 videos now, plus your book, podcast, and your Defuse the Divorce Bomb course. Anybody could say that, right? If you notice, if you go to the Coffee Date Mastery, what do you want to do is, what are they doing that's unique, that's different than everybody else? And that requires slowing down, listening to a podcast, watching a YouTube video or 2 or 3, right? And here's another thing. If you don't want to take the time to listen to them, then take the transcripts, have it, have it transcribe it, and then have AI summarize it for you and tell you what's unique and different about this compared to everything else out there, right? It's a way that you can kind of cheat code it. I think, myself personally, it makes a lot of sense to pay attention to what's unique and different about them and then repeat that back to them, right? Hey, listen, I've been following your YouTube channel and work for the past year and a half. I follow others, but quite frankly, yours is the only one that blank. And I really believe it's the missing piece that a lot of people in the dating world need to have or should have, but maybe aren't. Do you see where I'm going with that? So that there right alone lets them know that you're paying attention, that you're not just surface level throwing something out there, because what this whole post is, it's about your focus. So there's your prospective partner's focus, there's your focus, and then there's the most useful focus, right? And I'm trying to have you focus on what's the most useful focus. And the most useful focus is going to be, what do they want? Chances are they want to be in new markets. They want to get new customers and clients, right? That's their focus. So, because right after that part, you start going into pitch mode and another pitch mode and another pitch mode, right? So I would have recited back to them everything that they need. Now, I don't know if this looks like it was an email, which is perfect, right? The subject line tells them pitch incoming, right? What I would have led with on the subject is super fan, ... right? Or I'm a super fan, ... right? Now, most people are not going to use ... by the way, but I do. I use them all. I use the shit out of them. I love them, right? But I would have said something like, super fan incoming, and had some personality to it, right? And then I would have said, hey, I've been following your YouTube channel for the past year and a half. I love what you're doing, and then the thing that you're doing, nobody else is doing, I would paint that out to them so that they understand I get their mission. I understand what their mission is. I understand what's important to them. And let them know that I think what they're doing is different, and that everybody that's, single, that's looking to date, that's looking to actually find their perfect partner, needs to know about this, right? Then you could lead into a question, right, that then opens up the conversation. We have Evan in our Meaningful Man School group has a great, he actually shared a conversation in our group, showing like how he did this with a yoga studio, or yoga company selling yoga classes, online digital classes. And he just, he gets it. He understands like there's a process to this. And it's like, think about it this way also, Basil. When you're having conversations, there's going to be green lights, yellow lights, and red lights. Okay? And the vast majority of the time, the reason I see a lot of conversations go off the rails when we're trying to get partners is because we only see green lights. And it's usually because we're only on our focus. Why does someone run a red light, do you think? Most of the time, probably 90% of the time, it's because their focus is on something else other than the light, right? And so they blow right by it, blow right through it. Now, occasionally, nothing happens. Many times, what does happen? They get sideswiped, they hit somebody something goes wrong, right? So we have to look at these conversations as like we're going through lights, right? We want to get from one side of the town to the other. And we're going to have to go through some traffic lights for that to happen. And so in conversations, we want to give ourselves and the other person an opportunity to show us who they are. And using those green light, yellow light, red lights, you know, when something comes up in conversation that you're like, I don't necessarily think they're understanding, or I think they have a different understanding that I'm a service provider. Those are what we call yellow lights, and you want to slow down and you want to ask even more questions, right? So the thing is with this email is you're just assuming you're coming off as a service provider. You're assuming you just want to work with this person. I'm assuming I may not want to work with them. And in most cases, I'm assuming I probably won't work with them because I don't need the deal. But number two, I don't know if they're going to be fun to work with. And so I want to give them an opportunity in conversation to, number one, show them that I see what they're doing. I see what's unique about what they're doing. And I understand your mission that you believe everyone should be able to have this so they can have, a happy and healthy relationship, because quote unquote, maybe their mission is that we believe that marriage is, everything about a healthy society, right? I saw that recently. And so, if that's the case and that's their mission, that's what they believe, and you're on board with that mission, tell them so that they understand, like, oh, okay, this person actually took some time to find out a little bit about me, right? So ironically, by the way, Basil, just like in dating, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to have a conversation with them, and it's going to be a back and forth conversation. I'm not going to and just railroad them for 40 minutes about my life and all about me and everything, right? That's kind of what happens here in this email. We're just dumping everything out, and we're not really starting a conversation, and that's what we want to do. So once you've let them know what you're looking for, or that you understand about their, you understand that, or that they understand that you have done your research, quote unquote, or that you actually are a fan of what they're doing, right? Then you could say, I'm curious, how many, are you open to get this into new markets? Like, that's one of my favorite ways to do it. Are you open to getting said program or this mission into new markets? And of course, the answer is going to come back yes. That now opens up for you to go back and forth and have a short conversation to where you can then move it to a coffee date. So some of these, like, what if your clients and students had 24-hour access to a personalized AI coach, custom trained on all your materials? Well, I'm not going to lead with anything like that, because my big concern is maybe they like coaching, right? Or maybe they have coaches that like coaching, and maybe that's a big part of their thing is like, you're going to actually get to deal with a real person. Like, there's things you have to find out for. Alex, do we type in an answer here? Oh no, here, Alex, let me do this real quick, bud. Oh no, you're live. You should be on here. So there's things like that I'm not going to rush into the conversation, because I need to find out what's important to them first. So things like that. And again, I'm going to pause. I'm going to stop there. Just hopefully that makes a little bit of sense to you. But feel free to type in there and let me know if you have any feedback on it. Alex, go ahead. Fire away.
So that comment you made, I've seen it get very high, interest. The thing is, I then struggle with actually how to fulfill on it. So specifically the question, would you like to get this into, more, what's the word I'm looking at, more hands, a larger audience, right? Universally, at least people who do coaching, the answer is, at least in my experience, is about 100% yes.
Yep.
Then that kind of basically leads me to a little bit, and maybe I'm looking at this wrong, but, a little bit of a dilemma, because then it seems like, at least for me, the only way I know how to do that is then basically then have to go find someone who's got it, because I don't have the audience, find an audience owner, and then, play matchmaker. So, and I've been doing that for years, but, so anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So Travis talks about this a lot too, is that, again, what am I leading when I'm doing this? I want you to kind of understand this first, is I'm leading with their focus, right? That's what's important to them is they want to get new eyeballs. They want to get into new markets. And so that gets me on the coffee date, right? Now, once I'm on the coffee date, and sometimes this will actually happen even in the chat, but the next step is like, perfect. So here's what I'd like to do, because I can run direct mail campaigns. I can do, there's multiple ways I can go about doing this. What I'd like to do first, start with, is generate the IP from your existing audience. Run a test. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run that test with an existing audience, your existing audience, and it could be trash can assets. It could be, I've had people just hand over their entire list, 47,000 person list on the first go. But whatever it is, what you're going to do is you're going to run that test. Sometimes it'll be to their buyers list that they're not hitting very often. And so whatever it is, now it opens up for us to run a test. Well, here's what I want to do. Let's run a test so I can take that IP, right? And I'm going to give you a real world case study here in just a moment. Is to take that IP, and then I can go out and I can recruit new audiences, new eyeballs, and so on and so forth. So back in, you were just on the case study video that I did for the $364,000 case study that was ran just before Christmas in 2023, right, Alex?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I did, that was my first campaign with them. First campaign did $364,000 in 13 days. And so my next step after that was they actually had two more campaigns they wanted me to run on two other things. But then my next step after that, after I ran the third campaign, which was the $500,000 campaign that we did to their buyers list, I put together a pensive game plan of how I was going to take that offer that we did in Christmas, and they had 200 affiliates that were selling like a $33 a month program. And I'd already sold the program for $55 a month or $444 for the year. We did almost $200,000 with that, right? So I told him, I said, listen, here's what I'll do is I will go to each one of those affiliates, and I will take my IP that we successfully ran this campaign on. I will structure those for each person so that they can run it in their voice, and then they can run it to their audience. And with 200 affiliates, and by the way, this is how this works. 200 affiliates, there's probably a small percentage that are responsible for most of the sales, right? And then the rest of them are like people that are maybe doing 3 and 4 and 5 sales a month, right? But I told them, I said, out of 200 people, if each one just did 49 sales for the year, that's over $600,000 because it was a $1,200 offer. Is that $600,000 additional for the year in new eyeballs that are seeing stuff that are in new customers, and I just want 10%, right? Oh, excuse me, no, it was $6 million. 600,000 was my cut for at the other, right? So it was $6 million additional, and then I just wanted 10% for using my IP and for organizing it, right? So I would have done 600,000 for the year, leveraging IP that I would have already made. Now, Alex, here's the other side of that coin. Is imagine now you do this with somebody, but they don't have affiliates, right? Well, we get to go out and we get to bring on affiliates, and guess what? Just like this morning in Ronan, Alex, there's a guy in there that has, hey, I've got proven offers that work and this, that, and the other. I'm just looking for distribution in a specific category. Well, I know somebody who has 250,000 person email list in that category that's looking for offers just like that. And so you and I have access to not just Ronan, but then I know you've got an extensive network of people that that have distribution. Now we can take that and we can go to other distributions with that offer. So, but we do, and again, the reason why I go to them and I say, well, let's run a test so I can validate, get this IP, is that now I know I'm taking something that works, right? And now I can use it for direct mail, which if I wanted to, I can go out and I can get direct mail addresses. Maybe that company already has direct mail addresses snail mail for people, but they're not using it, right? And so now I can even say, well, hey, I'll fund a direct mail campaign to your people that have snail mails, and you don't have to worry about it again because now I have the validated IP. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very much so. So thank you.
Cool. Let's see here. And try to pull this back up. There we go. I think that's it. Nope, it's still not it. There we go. I found it. All right. Basil, type in any questions or feedback if you have that in there, in the chat. Yeah, again, I would have at one point, Alex, for an example, I would have thought, well, am I being misleading? Am I, what am I doing with, once I've gotten the coffee date? Again, it's no different than if I advertise people that, hey, if you have snail mails, I'll do direct mail and I'll fund 100% of it. I've gotten people that have done deals with that way. But what do I do? Is I say, well, perfect. Here's what I'd like to do is I'd like to run a test so I can take that IP and run it so I know so that it works. I've never had anybody have an issue with that. Nobody's ever, given me pushback or been upset about that or anything because they realize I'm funding it. Worst case scenario, we're running a test. Worst case scenario, we're going to make money on the test, and I'm going to leverage that to create us even more money, right? More of a pie, quote unquote, so that they can accomplish their mission. So that's how I've always looked at it. But leading with our focus is always going to get you a lot of opposition. Adonis, welcome. It's a new name. Questions? Anything else on what I've touched on here? If not, something else I want to talk about. The one thing that I have noticed, this has been across the board, is folks that struggle with moving out of the service provider mentality and moving into the, literally owning the investor stance. How many can relate? Anybody? Yeah. And now that we have the Coffee Date audit tool, of course, Chad got the blunt end of that. God bless you, brother. Chad got the blunt end of that. So I created this Coffee Date audit tool for myself initially, and I told it just just beat me up, just whatever. And so it told me here's what you got right, here's what you screwed up, and so didn't think about that, but I fed Chad's transcript into it and I gave it back to him. He took it like a champ though. But this idea of moving from, hold here real quick, Basil says, so just confirm our initial messages after mentioning what makes their product unique. We just asked them if they want more eyeballs in their offers and leading with that question. Yeah, that's certainly one question you can lead with for sure, Basil. Or could we also lead by pointing out some pain points, frustrations we notice that their subscribers mentioned, and maybe we have a solution for that? No, you're jumping too far ahead. Their focus, you bet, Chad, take care, bud. You're jumping too fast, Basil. If you're out on a date and a girl says that she likes you, you don't jump down on one knee and start proposing, right? We use a lot of metaphors and analogies here, especially in the dating and relationship space. Your goal is to find out what their biggest focus is, because by asking if they are open to getting this to new markets with new eyeballs, the answer is going to be inevitably yes, usually, right? Or if not, they'll come back with what their focus is and what they're looking for or what they're trying to accomplish. And so that opens up a natural conversation that you can have. And oh, no problem, Adonis. As soon as you get it figured out, let us know. So pointing out, again, pain points and frustrations you notice their subscribers mentioned, you're taking the focus off of what's important to the prospective partner. And that's what we're really wanting to get to, is have a conversation with them and help them get the truth on the table about what they're up against, what they're challenged with, and how committed to solving it they are. It's no different than where we're tapping people, prospective customers for our partners, right? When we're having those tapping conversations, we're trying to find out, what about this is important to you? What are some of the things that you're challenged with right now? What have you tried to solve that? How long have you been trying to solve it? These are questions that are more curiosity driven than intent driven, right? And so a lot of where your focus is, your intent is on getting the deal and selling your stuff, right? Or selling stuff and getting the deal. And so that can't be the dominant focus, because if it is, you're going to be rushing into, will you marry me too fast? And for a normal person, they're going to go, whoa, hey, slow down. That's weird. I just said I liked you. I didn't say I want to marry you yet, right? So that's kind of our focus. Which, by the way, brilliantly ties into what I'm already talking about, right? Is this transition from service provider to investor of sorts. And, we've talked about this inside the Meaningful Man school group, school community, in that there are other metaphors that we can use, because if you've never invested before, then you may not have the context for this. And this is why I like to use the relationship and the dating idea and concepts of, making this transition. Because if you've been focused on being a service provider and hoping to be chosen most of your career, that's something that's going to be pretty, locked in for a lot of people. It's something that it doesn't change overnight. It doesn't shift overnight. What I find, and I'm kind of curious, I know Cassie, I know you participated, I know Chad participated. I might pick on you, Cassie, just because I know we took one of your transcriptions, wasn't it? Didn't we feed it into the coffee date thing?
Yeah. Yep.
How insightful was that for you? And then how much more, I'm going to use the word cognizant, like aware, do you think you are leading into your next call, as opposed to if you just kept doing call after call and not having that kind of feedback?
Yeah, I did the recording, so I had the Fathom recording. At the end of the call, I felt pretty good. I mean, I had some notes in my head of I definitely had a let me help you, service hat on a little bit too much, but I felt like I did better than I did.
Yeah.
So we ran it through that transcript, and it was helpful. It highlighted, what I did right. But then it got real and told me what I could have done better.
Yeah.
And I just had a coffee date this morning, and I went back and read that right before I jumped on that call, and I feel like that helped. That helped a lot to move into this next conversation. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. A long time ago, someone shared with me that awareness is the greatest agent of change, right? And it kind of goes back to also the concept of self-respect. I think is certainly something that is important to speak to. You bet, Alex. So, I think that self-respect is super important in realizing that self-respect is important to step into this as a chooser instead of hoping to be chosen. The people that hope to be chosen, and this might, and again, because we're in a kind of a quiet container here in a bit of a bubble, but that hoping to be chosen is, to me, there's a sense of, I won't say self-respect is lacking, because that's too broad, too general. It'd be hard for me to say that Cassie doesn't respect herself. I think she does, obviously. In a lot of ways. You're a mom, and you've got all these other great things that you're doing. Yosemite's never going to be the same with all your cameras, by the way. But to say that when it comes to relationships, I think that we can lose sight of what's in our highest or what's in our best, whereas self-respect plays a big part of that, I think. And so when we go into these ideas, these concepts of being a partner, I think a lot of our relationship shit comes up too, right? Because rather, like for an example, and I'll just use my own personal experience, before, years ago, I would go into relationships being the nice guy, doing a bunch, hoping to be chosen, hoping to be picked. And it always blew up in my face, right? And I think inevitably it's because I didn't understand what a healthy partnership is back then. And now today that I do, and I'd made a lot of changes and shifted a lot of things, and I had committed to being my own self-advocate, right? And once I did that, of course, Brandy came into my life, and had I not been that individual, she would not have stuck around. We've had the conversation, right? Like, if there would have been parts of my personality that I had not resolved, if there had not been that sense of self-respect that was established and committed to, she would have been gone. She would have picked up on stuff right away. She would have saw, oh, this guy's got like 4 or 5 girls that are his friends that he's, advocating with all the time. No, he's got too many leaky holes in his bucket. I'm out, right? But I had made those changes. I'd made those shifts. I'd shut down all of that stuff. The same thing can be applied here when we're doing deals. Whereas if you have a certain self-respect for the value that you're capable of bringing to the table, even if you've never done deals before, chances are Basil, Silvio, Adonis, they're all bringing skills to the table that they can utilize within deal making to get results for people and within these partnerships. And so this transition has a lot to do with self-respect, with respecting your ability to bring certain value to these partnerships that they will not have otherwise. And so I think it's a really important conversation, both for individuals that are coming into this deal world and that hope to have a lucrative career here in producing value, producing income from deals. And again, going back to Basil, doing it in partnerships where we're actually having fun. I've walked out of partnerships where it was lucrative, but I walked away because it wasn't fun anymore. They showed me who they were, right? Sometimes that might take 3 or 4 campaigns before that happens. And once you do know, once that mask comes off, it's kind of like dating, right? If you've been in a relationship with somebody for a year, it's real hard for them to keep that mask on for, 2 years. You'll start to see it slip. You'll start to see their personality come through. You'll start to see how they actually treat people and things like this. And so I think deal making is the same way. There's many deal makers that are in the Meaningful Man School community. That's our paid community that, have gone through this process, and they've got partnerships that they've ran, they've been working with for 3-4 years because they've shown each other that they're willing to be partners. And I think that's a really important conversation. Adonis is asking, something I wanted to ask is, I do have a specific approach for cold traffic. Or do you have a specific approach for cold traffic? I know getting them to trust you is a lot harder, and there probably isn't a single answer, but I wanted to hear your thoughts if you don't mind. Yeah. So, we have folks that use cold email to start conversations. It's really no different than if I was to reach out to an influencer, for an example, right? So it wouldn't be any different if I reached out to an influencer that I quote unquote didn't know, but maybe I was following their stuff or paying attention to their stuff, or I just slowed down to spend an hour and listen to one of their videos or go through one of their podcasts or whatever, and I realized like what they're doing is really different. It's really unique. I like it. I'm excited about it. I could get behind it, right? Now you're doing one-on-ones that way, but I think taking that sniper approach where you actually slow down for a minute and understand what they're doing is super important. I think for cold cold traffic, quote unquote, if you're talking about like cold email, and Adonis, let me know if it's different. But I think with like when you're doing cold email, it's a little tougher to do that, because now what you're doing is you're kind of going that broad pitch and just hoping to get a couple of hands. So you're doing more of the shotgun approach, and you're hoping to get a hand up in the air. And I think that makes it a little bit tougher. The other thing is when you're only focused on the money, right? Now, I don't want to come across as a hypocrite when I say this, because in the book, I talk about, I've got somebody who can generate, $100,000 or $500,000, right? But it needs to be more mission driven, right? And if you're only speaking to the money, if you're only talking about money to people, you're going to get the people who are, that kind of worship the money. They're money driven. And those are going to be the people that are going to be probably a little harder to work with. So, Adonis, when it comes to that cold traffic, cold email, and I've done cold email, by the way, and I've had some success with it in the past. I find that, like in the book, leveraging those networks and leveraging those referral partners is just another way of doing it, right? Personally, I like to have a couple of different fishing rods in the water. So if you're going to do cold email, that's great. Give that a shot. Utilize it. Get those hands raised. Have conversations. It's bringing you the types of people. Then, like for me, running ads is another for referral partners, but also running ads for partners. Having those referral partners that I pay out a percentage, right? That's a whole nother one that's worked extremely well for me over the past couple of years. And then there's my own outreach that I do. And then there's, so I think having multiple fishing lines in the water, cold traffic's not a terrible one. Like I mentioned earlier, I actually did I had a campaign I did with somebody where they were running a webinar, and all the traffic that they were spending about probably anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 a month on cold traffic that would show up to register for the webinar. But then all this cold traffic would spill over that didn't register for the webinar into chat, and I took all of that. And so we have, I'm going to be doing a case study on this that I'll provide inside of our Meaningful Man School community, which is the paid community, that will show how I was able to, quote unquote, convert that traffic, for lack of a better term. Whereas, we have something called the Netflix effect, where if they show up, I'm going to give them resources to go through, have them come back if in fact it does the job, and then we can take and continue the conversation and close them out. I did that for 3 months. We did, about $300,000 in 90 days, and all with cold traffic, and it works incredibly well from that aspect of it. But again, that was for the prospects for my partner. I know you're asking about cold email, and I don't have a problem with it. I just think you have to know, like if you're going for a specific industry, I think you'd be much wiser to go that route. So for an example, if it was for wellness coaches that did blood work, I'm being very random, but very specific. I would only have my cold email go out to that specific niche, because you want to have dialed in understanding what their symptoms, their issues, their challenges are, and see if you can open up that conversation. But then it also does go right back to Basil's question that he asked, and he gave us all a cold outreach that he used, and that feedback would be very, very relevant for you. So I think it's going to be in the recording if you weren't on at that time. Cool. Questions, folks? This call was for everybody who wanted to dig in and get insights and ask questions. By the way, since let's see. So for many of you, you can see here, this is the Meaningful Man newsletter. So a lot of folks registered for the newsletter. You can come here, of course, and I'll have a lot of stuff. A bunch of stuff is paid. This one here, of course, because I'm put it together, there's no paywall, but there's going to be paid content. There's also going to be free content, but there is inevitably a lot of really good stuff here. You can see here the most popular stuff: wealth building shortcut, get paid up to 25K riding shotgun, the insider guide to revenue sharing mastery. This thing got a lot of love, got a lot of attention. Beginner to advanced deal making, the ultimate guide to making six figures. I've revamped that, and I put that inside of the Meaningful Man School group. And so, but if you look at some of the best stuff here, these are some of the really excellent resources that are doing well. But there's a lot of cool stuff here. And then also, and I meant to do this earlier, this is the Meaningful Man School community. This is our paid community. You can see here we've got the classroom. We've got some other guides in here. I did one of the guides, but in here we've got being the boss, not the beggar, finding mission-driven partners, and then ultimately the your guide to coffee date mastery. And they don't know you outreach guide. This is really good. I'm really like that. We've got our Floodmaker case study. We've also got the dark side of partnerships. This is the $1.2 million case study in 69 days that Marcus Carl did with us, which is really good. And then I didn't think about it, but I should probably go over here. Let's go to products, courses. So these are some of the courses that we have over here, but I'm going to show you this one. So this is the Symptoms to Sales AI Tool Suite. All of our, anyone who jumps on board for the Floodmaker gets this. The Floodmaker is, again, it's the actual, let me go back there and I'll show you that one too. Oops. So the Floodmaker is how I run all of my campaigns, and I break it all down for you, Tony Teegarden style. So, and it, of course, has access down here. I've got the coffee date assessment tool, which is excellent. Floodmaker tools and training, campaign docs, how we set up all of our offers. All of that stuff is in here. The actual campaign, how we kick it off, how we prepare. And literally, I can have one of these campaigns off the ground in about 2 or 3 days. So we move pretty quickly. And then this is the AI, the Symptoms to Sales AI Tool Suite. So this is our Rudolph Story Creator. This is how we start to get that foundation of our partners' prospective clients, how we put all that together, the Offer Angle Creator Tool. I've got a new one that I'm going to be adding in here, matter of fact, which is the Offer Foundation Tool. That's where I want people to start once they've gone through the Rudolph Story. Triangle of Insights, is the core of all of our emails that we write. This actually creates those for us. The T1 Creator Tool, this is how we write our emails, but it'll actually write the emails for us. And then the symptomatic subject lines, which all my email subject lines that you see come from this. We've also got the writing in my voice, which is how we can write all of our copy in our partner's voice, not in our own. And so I show you how to do it within literally just a couple of minutes. And then the AI Creator Finder tool, which is really cool. We've got some cool updates coming for this, but I'll just show you an example. And this is where literally, let's see, I can do searches on YouTube, but we're about to do a bunch of updates on this where it's going to be for TikTok and Instagrams and all the other cool stuff, where we can search for creators, find out everything about their company, their business. This just gives us the video, but it also will give us the tags for the videos. Let's go down here. Let's do this one. Yeah. This one I still don't have tags, but it'll tell us the monetization that they have or don't have, contact emails. All of this stuff is going to be available. We've got some really cool updates coming for this. And but it's a way to find creators to work with, and it's a lot of fun. So I just want to make sure I share this with everybody. See some more questions. Yeah, Donna said, yeah, mostly I'm asking about cold email, but I'm also currently running a test on Reddit because it can be a gold mine for leads at times. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I like Reddit a lot. There's some stuff on Reddit that I want to do. Being able to do your like research on there, especially if you have somebody you're working with in particular. For an example, like a partner, and somebody that you're looking to research, you can go over there and find all kinds of stuff out about people's experience with that partner, or that prospective partner, I should say. But yeah, I love Reddit. Reddit is a gold mine for data and information, and also for leads. Absolutely. Cool. What else, folks? Questions, comments? You got me here for another couple of minutes. Usually on these, we'll go sometimes 2-3 hours. But today, a little light, which is okay. I think timing also for a lot of folks is a challenge. Not everybody can be like Mr. Gomez and, stay up at night to join us. David says, Tony, I was wondering in general if you have seen any downturn in availability of partners in the course mastermind world, given the rise of AI chat GPT. Actually, just the opposite, David, really. It's interesting, especially when you look at like in the world of online marketing, that's a very small niche compared to say keto, or weight loss or sales in general, right? Like there's all of these, just absolutely humongous markets that quite frankly dwarf anything in our world. And I know you said mastermind. Generally, a lot of outside the make money world don't use the word mastermind so much, right? But I've not seen any downturn at all. If anything, the AI stuff has given us more opportunity to kind of spread our wings and get outside of the make money niche or the online marketing niche, so to speak, because we can go to authors and we can create entire tool suites around all types of nonfiction authors, right? And actually, one of the thoughts and ideas that I've had is how it ties into fiction and how you can create your own adventure. I don't know if does anybody remember those create your own adventure books from being like as a kid? I do. And they were a lot of fun because you could start the book and then based on you choosing that decision, it'd take you to a different part of the book and it would have different outcomes. And something about that was just so fun for me as a kid. I love those choose your own adventure books. And then I started thinking about how can that be applied using AI to, not to fiction books. And of course, being a big fan of Warhammer 40K, which is really the only fiction that I would say I've read at all recently in the past year or two, I started thinking
Those
about
are those small figurines that that people buy
Yes.
to paint, right?
Correct. That's owned by Games Workshop. And Game Workshop is huge. They're out of the UK. And yeah, they're responsible for that. It's been around for 30 years. And there's people, they paint those little armies and they create their own little armies. And you'll have guys that go in, they all meet like on a table and they roll the dice and all this kind of stuff. It's like an old Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing, right? But Game Workshop now has a thriving community. It's behind a paywall, but you can go on YouTube and there's like just all this amazing animation now that's been done and movies that are being done and stuff like this. And so that's why Henry Cavill wants to come out with it. But my point being is that, how could like fiction writers tie into AI? And I started thinking about the choose your own adventure books. I'm thinking like, damn, that would be kind of cool where somebody, they could have the novel or have a novel, but yet go down rabbit holes. Or maybe like my fiance Brandy's into true crime stuff, right? And so what if there was like a true crime, like there's a book, but yet you can go down AI rabbit hole if you wanted to. Now, some people aren't going to want that. Some people want to read the nonfiction because they don't want to be in the computers and all that kind of stuff. But it's just how my brain works. I'm like, it could be awesome and it could totally suck. but choose your own adventure could be, really fun using AI. So I see as, a lot of opportunity with that sort of thing. But to answer your question, David, no, I haven't seen a downturn in availability because, quite frankly, AI is not able to make offers like we can. Like, inevitably, it's still up to us, even though we utilize, and this is why I teach on offers. This is why Travis teaches on offers, is because we still have to have context and decent understanding around what makes, a good offer, quote unquote, good. Because AI can give us the feedback, it can give us ideas and give us things, but inevitably we have to be the guard, the gatekeeper of that and decide whether or not we want to test that offer or not, right? So AI is still in its infancy. It's still only as good as the context that you provide it. That's the big key that I'm realizing. And so, if anything, it's opening up doors because now a lot of people, especially in the online marketing world, which is the easiest place to do it, albeit the most probably crowded space, is bringing AI tool suites to their courses and helping their customers and clients get faster, more efficient results using AI. So it could be cool. And I can see where it works in the coaching industry, people that are certifying coaches, all these sort of things. Like it's amazing. So good question, David. You bet. What else, folks? The book is, let me just tell you, by the way, shameless plug, if anybody has the book, I know Mr. Gomez, you're working on it. I know they won't give it to you. But if anyone will, number one, yes, I don't hate reviews. So love those reviews. If you haven't done one, I don't hate them. Sharing the book on social, great thing to do. I think it would be a lot of fun. If you want to tag me on those, but sharing it on social, I know Jeff already has. Jacob, certainly, I think you have. Anybody that's got the book that digs it, that it's useful, sharing it on social is super awesome. We don't hate that, and we certainly don't hate reviews, if I didn't already say that. Is there anything in the book that people have questions about or want me to dig a little bit in between the chapters of? Anything that stands out? My thought was I could probably do like an email a day around each page. Actually, I could probably do about 2 or 3 emails off of each page in the book if I wanted to. That kind of goes deeper, a little bit more in context. But, and I could have made the book a lot bigger, but I wanted to make it so that people could get through it and get a good understanding. And then the deeper context would come from diving into the free school community. But there's certainly, there's a lot that I could dive into in between each one of these chapters that would be useful. Just curious if it'd be useful to anybody. Questions? Because if not, we're going to have a short call today, which is good for me because I'm still getting over something. I don't know what it was, but we got back from Alabama and it has not left me alone since.
Cold, something like that?
What's that?
You catch it cold?
Something like that. I think it got worse. And then I've got a nasty cough. Fortunately, I haven't coughed to this so far, so this has been good. But yeah, something got a hold of me.
He caught the Alabama pollen.
Yeah, that too.
Sweet home Alabama.
That's right.
I'm still getting started reading on it and doing the understanding part. You don't always have millions of questions.
Oh yeah.
I think it's 90% done. I mean, the case studies, almost all the case studies I've read.
Excellent.
But the way you took of course, I know what you're talking about because we've been together for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But the way you come back to the tribe and the hunting and the buffalo, is that a metaphor? Is that what actually a metaphor is?
Yeah.
I love it how the whole book it's centered on coming back to the tribes, and it just makes it more, I guess, understandable is the word, but it's just genius on that matter.
Awesome. No, I'm glad. Yeah. I think that's for the new folks that are here. I think realizing that this is how people learn is, being able to take something that they already understand and applying to something they want to understand.
Exactly.
And we use metaphors, analogies, and stories to do that in our emails. That's why when I'm running a campaign, I think they work so well, is because we're always giving people braingasms or insights, aha moments that get them excited. And quick story on that, Mr. Gomez, is that we, Brandy and I were in Arkansas at Travis's live events, first one he's done in years, and of course wasn't going to miss it. So we went, and Marcus Carl, who has the 1.2 million case study in 69 days, we had met him. He'd flown in from Japan, and he's from Australia, but he lived in Japan for the last 20 years. He flew in, and so we all got to kind of meet. Three of us went on a really long walk around downtown and that area we were in. And I'll just tell you, it happened because he was asking me about, philosophy and the ideas. And I was like, I said, it's a lot like, today, and at least in the Western culture, we've lost that ritual of what it means to be when you move from a boy to a man. I said, we've kind of lost that, that idea, that concept, that ritual.
Rite of passage.
The rite of passage. Thank you. That's what I was trying to come up. And so, we've lost that rite of passage, and it's like, at some point you realize, like, you begin to become the warrior, and in that it's you have a usefulness within the tribe that you go out and you begin to hunt and be a part of that party. And whether you're 17 or 16, is that whatever that point of that rite of passage point is, you have a responsibility to treat yourself like someone you care about and you're responsible for, aka Jordan Peterson's old saying, right? But it's the same thing here. And so having that conversation with Marcus, and it just kind of came to me in that moment. I've been thinking about it off and on a little bit, but I'm an external processor, by the way, so it's like usually the best stuff comes out of my mouth as I'm thinking about it sometimes. I've crock-potted it maybe a little bit, but we right there in that point, I was like, yeah, it's like, you become a warrior, and you're not out there hunting rabbits as a boy. You're out there hunting buffalo as a man, and with your fellow, warriors, and they're working together to do this so that when you actually expend that energy, you're not just eating rabbits, every other day. The entire tribe is feasting on this buffalo, and then they're using all of the different parts, aka multiple use, right? And we're standing there, and Brandy goes, "You really need to use that for the book. That's pretty brilliant." So it's her fault that it's in there, right? And I say fault as in a good way. If she hadn't mentioned that, I don't know that I would have used that for the book, but I'm glad that I did, because initially, believe it or not, I was going to use building a home, right? Not a house, but a home. And I was going to use that, but it just didn't quite have and she pointed out, she's like, listen, the buffalo have already buffaloed the house out of the way. This is what needs to happen. I was like, okay, cool. Makes sense.
I understand the building a home from your point of view now that you have a home and you've actually built a home, but that would have a smaller audience, if you want to call it that way, versus the hunting buffalo in the tribe. You would get a much larger audience to understand it.
That's right.
You get a bigger impact.
Yes.
Yeah. Love it.
So thank you to Mrs. Teegarden.
Well, she's not Miss Teegarden yet, but we're working on it. She's a fiance.
I think she is.
He said she thinks she is. There you go. It's all good. That's awesome. That works. Jacob's got something he wants to do. He's got a coffee date tomorrow. He's going to prepare for. He hasn't dived in yet. Would it be something to do here now? See how you'd approach a prep. Absolutely. For sure, dude. We don't have to get into names of who it is or anything like that if you don't want.
No, that's no problem for me. I was thinking if it would make sense to like do it live, like what you would look into, what you would do, how you would approach it. I'm pretty sure that this guy does not have any.
Horses. Is it that one guy you gave me with the?
Yeah, exactly. With a lot of like this entire letter with the shock and awe letter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he's doing keynote speeches and has a lot of books, and everything is referred to as how you could invest with him when you wanted to book him. So.
Got it.
I think he's a really interesting person, but I have no idea what I will leave that coffee date with.
Sure, yeah, and sometimes that's good because you don't have a huge attachment, right?
Yeah,
I think that's most important. By the way, is like when you go into a coffee date that you're not attached.
Yeah,
very important.
I should.
I just gave you share if you want to share anything.
Yeah, that would make sense.
I just gave you share so you can share.
Thanks.
Let me ask you first things first. Have you listened to any of his? Because he had a ton of podcasts. Have you listened?
Yeah, I have listened to a couple of them.
Okay. What's he doing that's different? Do you think? And for a little bit of context, once you pull it up, share with everybody like what's the niche.
I think maybe I should just start by. I can run over the chat that we had because I just hit him up on LinkedIn with that opener that I posted in the group.
Perfect.
And then I'm pretty sure actually he has an AI sitting, but with some instructions maybe for how to, because he responded back with the classic.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And referenced some of the stuff I have on my profile and so on, and his So, and then I just answered him, told him that I see you help people through many different channels and speaking and coaching too, because it seemed very blurry. Is there any single most common problem you help solve across audiences, just to get as broad of a question out as possible? And then he replies this, I'm known as the unshakable Dr. Al, the doctor of positivity and happiness. I help people and businesses live their best lives with passion, positivity, purpose, possibilities, and potential. So there's some peace.
Okay. Let me pause you there real quickly.
Yeah.
Back up to your previous message there. So this kind of goes back to what I was mentioning before.
Yeah.
Again, you've got the coffee date, so I'm not beating up on you. What I would have done there, I probably would not have. So this is where the research happens before you reach out.
Yeah.
Right? So instead of me asking him, what's the single most common problem you help solve across audiences, it indicates I haven't done my research.
Yeah. And
right.
I thought that as well, but I remember I was just sitting and I wanted to answer him as he popped up.
I get it, but I
really couldn't see what it was that he was solving.
Well, and here's the thing. Here's what's good about this though, is that when it's in chat like this, don't feel obligated to get back to them immediately, especially if you've got some sort of automated thing kicking in. I'm definitely not, because he's not sitting there waiting for me to reply back, right? So I'm wanting people that are watching this to know that, yes, you got the coffee date, so no harm, no foul. However, I want to do my research before, and then when I reach out, my thing is like, dude, I love what you're doing with such and such. What you're doing is really unique, compared to what everybody else is doing, yada, 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 right? Like, I want to come across as if I'm already have done my research. Like, I'm already aware and a fan to some degree of what they're doing and how differently they're doing it. I'm saying that specifically for a reason, right? How differently they are. So for a lot of people, like if I'm just gonna be very direct with you. If you sent this to me, and believe me, I get this all the time. Hey Tony, what do you do for a living? What do you? I'm like going, you lazy shit. You haven't taken right. Like I have no filter right now, but that's what comes up for me. Is I'm like going, dude, have you not like read anything? Like, have you not done any research whatsoever? And I don't mean to sound condescending, but in my mind, I just know I'm getting set up for the pitch.
Yeah.
Right? So, the small talk, the BS, whatever. But if somebody said, come across and said, Tony, dude, I just picked up your book and I read it and, I've done a lot of client work over the years. I wish I'd found your book like 5 years ago because, I can see where this is so different than what everybody else is teaching, like with get your next client, run the next VSL, right? If somebody had approached me with that, I'd be way more open to the conversation than, if somebody comes at me, which they do right now, they come at me with going, hey, dude, like I can hear the sales pitch coming, right? So I just want people to realize that's something different that we'd want to do. So then he goes in, I'm known as Unshakable Dr. Al.
Yeah. I know that at this point I had run my perplexity research prompt on him, and I remember I was sitting at, what the fuck is he actually doing? And yes, I can see when I read it now exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I was aware, but I didn't, when I had my mind in it, I didn't see it as that. So
one thing that's going to help, by the way, is I've got another. If you noticed in the group, in the Meaningful Man School community, the paid group, I announced a new research tool that will keep this from happening. By the way,
and that's great.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. What's the next part of the combo?
Then he sent me
Video.
a video to look at, and where he mentions this concept of lykke, as we have in Denmark, that are like not many other countries I think have a word that for exactly that. So I just responded with that, and then he got back.
That's good.
Yeah. And then I respond this, that I would love to support the Lykke mission, but I'm not sure if what I bring is a fit, although I often find that new opportunities arise from open-ended talks, so if you would be open to a conversation. And then he sent me this Dr. Al shock and awe letter, which is very incredible. Like all of this stuff that he has, books, and some in progress and some have been written.
So is that
and he is doing these transformational experiences. I found out was they are keynote, they're speeches, keynote speeches.
Okay.
So he just calls them experiences, and he does some spin-offs off of those, like, but it's not pre-packaged.
Okay.
I think. So a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So it's kind of like a media. Yeah. So he's got all of these. Okay. Demos. What's this? Demo video watch.
Yeah.
Actions.
So
Audience.
that's just, there's so much.
Yeah.
There's all those podcasts, and I have listened to a couple of them as well.
Okay. So he
but
doesn't take. So he has no digital courses, correct?
No, not as far as I haven't found yet. But like I said, I haven't dived really into it.
So
yet.
one of the things you can do, if you remember, is in the Ultimate Guide to Six-Figure Deal Finding.
Yeah.
I have that set of videos where I show you how I do research. One of the things you can do is you can take his website, do site, and then HTTP, his website, It'll pull up all of the index pages in his site that are indexed in Google that maybe don't show up on his website. I can't tell you how many times I've found courses or videos, even not protected, stuff like that.
Okay.
You'd be surprised. So just go there. And then in front of it, put site. There you go. Go in front of HTT.
Yeah.
Site, colon, 2 dots on top of each other. Okay. And then return. You're in Bing.
Yeah.
I would do Google.
Okay.
Is this useful to everybody, by the way? I think it's really cool. Thanks for doing this, Jacob.
Definitely is.
Because, right now and if we can just finish the, maybe before I do this.
Well, I want to do this first, and then we can finish the conversation.
All right, so I put it in here?
Either one, up top or down there. And put site, colon.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is just one of 2 web pages that he gave me.
Okay. So scroll down.
There are some members here.
Yep. See how, you'll find stuff. And then I just open it, just do that. You can open up in a new thing and see.
This is what had me reach out to him.
Okay.
But that's the template. I just threw it off for a lot of people to see which ones got back. And that was contact business and success coach and speaker. And then it goes to basically just something about speaking.
Yeah. Okay, log in to connect with members.
Yeah.
Okay, go to the second Google page. Okay,
Podcast and keynote.
so not a whole lot there, but I'm not done with the other page, the members. Go back to that members page. So connect with members, view and follow other members. Okay, so this is apparently where it's like an online collab thing, so it's not like a membership. So it'd be really interesting. You'll find out on the call.
You might want to look at the page shorts and see where he has that. Maybe it's going to tell you a lot if it's a WordPress or if it's called.
Yeah. I do that as well. You can go in, you can see what the CSS of it is, but he would need to have the thing. You can't do it right now. I don't want to take up too much time to do that. But you can download
you could right click on your mouse and look where it says page source.
Yeah, you could do that. See if you can right click on that. I don't know what browser he's on.
I'm on Chrome.
Okay, yeah, you could do it on that.
Go ahead, just right click.
Where?
Anywhere.
Okay.
There's good. And down it said view page source. It doesn't say that views.
It's because it's in. There you go. So it's Wix. It's built on Wix.
Okay.
So it's not WordPress. So it's, again, I don't think all that is just a members area for other people to connect. It's not like a members area where he's got a course or anything like that.
No.
But yeah, this is all built on Wix. So, but that is a great point that he brings up. Is like I've been able to find just going through page source on things that's built on WordPress, and then I know how to search through, all that kind of fun stuff through the page source and find what you're looking for.
Yeah, it tells you a lot. Somebody that has WordPress nowadays.
Yep.
You're dealing with.
So it's not. There's not a ton here that's in there, but again, you go back. So let's go back to the conversation.
Yeah, and then I have another site as well.
Okay, let's go to the other side.
But we. Was it? No, Dr. Al Speaks, that's the one we just researched. This is his other site. So again, book to speak.
Yeah.
Radio shows, books, blog.
Have you looked at his social platforms?
No, not yet.
Okay. So we'll go there in a second too, because I like to look at those. I noticed the icons are down at the bottom, so I would just open those in another window and I'd take a look at those.
Yeah.
What kind of activity and action he's got going on. I don't see also that on any of this that he's collecting emails. I didn't see any opt-ins. Connect with us. Yeah, it's just,
He has a Jack Canfield with testimonial. That's pretty good.
yeah. So, yeah, it's just for a consult. So he's not collecting email, which is interesting, at least not on either one of these sites.
No.
Okay.
He's focused on speaking.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, he is. I'm thinking
So this tells me two things, Jacob, is one, again, because for me, I'm only going to work with people who have audiences, right? Like captured audiences. So I'm not going to make the assumption yet, but I would assume he does not have an email list. Let's finish the combo, and then I want to go look at his social pieces.
So I came back to him and said, I get the impression that your work revolves around your speaking events and offer customized add-ons relevant to each event. What I'm curious about is to what extent you're reaching people beyond the stage and airwaves. This could be through your digital content, offers aimed at past event lists or buyer base.
Can I pause you real quick?
Yeah.
So this goes back to what I had mentioned to Basil.
Yeah.
I get the impression that your work revolves around your speaking events and offering customized add-ons relevant to each event. Is that true? Stop. Right? Like, imagine, again, if you and I sat down on a Zoom and 45 minutes later, I'm still talking. I've not taken a breath. I've not given you a chance to say anything, right? That's not going to go well.
Yeah.
What we want to do is open it up for them to speak more. I want more ears, less mouth. God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So that way when I actually do say something, it's important to the other person. Now believe me, I know how to talk. I can talk too much, right? So the reason this is so easy for me to point out. But in these chats like this, that first, you did great with opening that up, and I would say, is that correct, or am I missing anything? Give them a chance to then, because now we're going into, here's what I do, take a look, here's what I do, right? And we're getting way ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
Again, you got the coffee date, but here's what's important to understand is getting a coffee date isn't nearly as important as going into a coffee date being seen as the investor. It's a big difference, right? So go ahead.
Yeah, so I remember at this point, what I actually was thinking was that I am not sure that this makes sense at all. So, but now I have him now he's in the chat, then I would just try and disqualify him. I actually thought that. So I was, and yes, I could have just stopped there, but what I was thinking was that I don't think this makes sense. So, but I wanted to know. So I tried to basically disqualify this because I was thinking that he didn't have anything that would make sense.
Yep.
So my thought was to put this in to tell him what I could bring and to have him tell me if that would make sense to talk about at all. So if I had, if I had my eyes on specifically what I could, which offer he had and what I could do with that, I would have stopped there. But I just thought that I don't think this really
Well, I'll tell
makes
you.
that much sense. So I would just, but I could have stopped anyway. But that's the reason why I was trying to get it, to get it cleared if this made sense to talk about at all, or if it wouldn't make sense.
Well, I would say like this. What I'm curious about, if you go back up.
Yeah.
What I'm curious about. So this would have made, like, I get the impression that your work revolves around your speaking events and offers custom out on relevance events. A normal person would come up, if we would have stopped there, they probably would have come back and go, yeah, primarily that's my focus, speaking. I've got other customized add-ons, and they would go a little bit further. They would what's the word?
Yeah, they would give something more.
Spill the beans.
Yeah, they would spill the beans more, and we'd kind of find out, right? So then the next thing I like, so I'm curious, to what extent are you reaching beyond? Now, again, depends on where they go, because we want to be tossing the ball back and forth, right? So we don't know where the conversation would have gone because, we didn't frame it as that single question. And again, by the way, one question at a time, right?
Yeah.
We don't ask multiple questions. I know you do that.
And this is based on this conversation. I can, compared to other conversations I've had, this totally tanks on all those. But this is how I was thinking. That's why I'm mentioning it, because I really didn't think that it actually would make very much sense. So I need to know if this is something. But of course I should just have kept it open and shorter. Yeah.
So here's what I see. So go down, because I saw his response. Like he seemed, yes. Do you have an email? You can find out more about me.
So that's why this is going to be very interesting, because I basically just put that out there, and he just said yes. And based on this, I would, and I didn't have assets or resources that allow me to like kind of market myself already, I would have said yes too. Right? Yeah. So if I go back here and I read this, at the core, what we do is we help businesses with a clear mission and lots of content, but also very full calendars. We help them reach more people with the content they already have, and in some cases help bring their new content to new audiences too. It's not that I don't like that. I just don't think these are put in the right context. Like, I don't think they're in the right conversation. I love some of this language you're using. I just don't know that it works in the context of this, because it'll be interesting, like you said, once you have the conversation with him, because right now what he might be thinking, based on what I'm reading, I would think that he's going, oh, this guy's going to take what I've got and take it out to new people, and I'm going to get more speaking gigs. Awesome, right? That's kind of what I get the impression of. Their digital content, offers aimed at past event lists, or buyers based, just to name a few. So again, he probably has to have some kind of buyers list, I would think, but whether it's in a CRM, I don't think so. He's also seems like B2B, so he's like speaking at events, so it's not necessarily has like a customer base. I don't work with customer bases. In B2B, you can have customer bases, but in this instance, it's probably not ideal, and you won't know until you talk to him. But my point is by asking that one question and stopping, we get a chance to go through, is this a yellow light or is this a red light? To qualify in shorter instances, because, if the conversation I would have led it to, like, well, hey, like, do you have a customer database now? He might say yes. I say, great. Is that in a CRM of some kind? Are you? And he would have said, well, no, it's in a Excel spreadsheet, right? Well, you're dead in the water there if you're like me and you're looking to work with people who already have distribution. I don't get the impression that he's got distribution in an email database or a school group. Those are the only two things I'm interested in working with right now. Right? Now, if somebody has those things, but they've also got a YouTube channel and TikTok, like, there's other cool stuff I can do with those things after. I'm primarily looking and focusing on people that have an email distribution. And if they don't, like with the Quiet Little Launch, right? Like, he would be a candidate for a Quiet Little Launch if he was interested and committed to launching some kind of digital program, right? That we could launch for him if he has an audience. He doesn't have an audience to do that with, would be my first guess. Let's do this. Let's confirm something. Go back to his website and let's go take a look at his social profiles. And I'll tell you guys how I think about this when I see social profiles. So just open up each one.
his YouTube, his LinkedIn, all that stuff. Yeah, let's take a look at that. Okay, so 171.
So nothing.
Let's go look at the others though, because sometimes people will have like massive YouTube channels, but they won't have crap on Instagram.
Yeah.
So when I do this, I'll go through and I'll look to see. So okay, so he's got almost 2,000 subscribers. How many views? How often ago did he promote?
Not very much.
Okay. And it looks like a year ago, and it's like 16 views, 20 views. So again, these are what I call social cues.
Yeah.
Right? It's just not, he's got 2,000, but he hasn't posted in like a year, 11 months, it looks like the last time.
Yeah.
So that's not exciting. Let's go look at his LinkedIn. Now, myself personally, I'm not interested in working with LinkedIn profiles for people.
No.
I'm
No,
not
because it's very difficult to get into and manage.
It's his biggest audience of 7,640.
Yeah, but that's not very much.
Well, and it's not indicative as to,
And it's probably business directed, B2B.
right.
What happens when you click more?
Yeah, go back to his thing and click more.
Is there an email? It doesn't seem like he has an email.
Come on.
More. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing there.
Mm.
And then let's take a look at X. But I mean, I can tell you, myself personally, I probably would not go on this coffee date.
No.
But I'm just saying.
Yeah, I was. That came off of the outreach that I put in, and then I just decided to get into conversations with people, and from his from this, it seems like there could be something interesting, and that's why I didn't really have a problem trying to disqualify him.
Wait a minute. His Twitter profile is much larger.
Let's take a look.
Yeah.
He has 10,000 following and 11,000 followers.
My thoughts. I remember my thoughts when I looked at this during the conversation.
He doesn't have any. Just keep scrolling while you're
There's
talking.
no engagement on what
Yeah, there's no engagement. It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking
That could be managed by someone else, by the way.
Yeah. Or he could have bought, stuff.
Yeah, that else.
Yeah,
he could have bought the audience. Yeah. So basically, he is making his income off of doing those speaking gigs, but he doesn't really have an audience apart from that.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I'm looking to work with influencers or experts or anything, I'm looking for someone who already has distribution.
Yeah.
There's a play here. I again, knowing where you're at in your journey, and doing.
I was thinking I'm just gonna go on it no matter what and just figure out the angle. So the angle here might be more to think of him as having a good conversation and then seeing if he would know somebody.
Well, there's a couple of ways. One, yes, you could do that for sure. I've been on coffee dates where I've turned them into referrals. Where they know other people who have distribution. They make those introductions. I pay them up to $10,000 for referrals. The other thing, it's more of a longer term play, but somebody like this probably has a lot of IP. So I'd ask.
Diamond in the rough, but you have to polish it.
Well, and I'm not interested in doing that. But the thing is he's got IP. So it's like, does this stuff in recording? Is it recorded? So if he does, you know, you could repackage that stuff, and if there are, and then turn it into an offer, and if there are people. But see, that's the long way to grandma's house, I like to call it, right?
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to take a long way to grandma's house. However, you know, and again, how do I say this? We hope he's going to be here for quite some more time. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, he's not the youngest guy. That's what you're trying to say.
Yes, in very kind fashion, right?
Yeah. And I've been thinking exactly the same as well.
You know, now if it was like a 35-year-old influencer, and you know, it'd be different, right? It's like, okay, there's a long-term play here, but you know, someone like this, what kind of time and energy and resources do they have? You know, and again, the big thing for me is I'm looking for distribution. I'm looking for email lists. That's just me though, or a school community, or a Facebook group at least, something where, you know, they've got that audience that's actionable and that we can work with.
Yeah.
To me, that's what I'm looking for. But with all that being said, go on the call. You never know. I like how you're thinking as far as like, okay, well, you know, turning it into a referral machine of some kind. You might know of some other people in that world. But the other play is, you know, he's got content that you might be able to get repurposed and do some stuff with. But again, it's the long way to grandma's house, not what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking as well. Could be something to do. But to his, like I was trying to indicate to him, to his buyers or to his list. But maybe he didn't get that. That might be possible that he didn't do that. So, but I just took the opportunity to just go on the coffee date and then see what happened, and that didn't really think about it much more than that.
Right.
That's why I haven't really thought about it until just right now, because it's just tomorrow.
Right.
So no real expectations. I'm gonna go into this with just listening. I think that's just it. Then see if something comes up.
Yeah.
Because what I was thinking was that with his probably the connections that he had, it wouldn't hurt anything to go on a call with him and have a good conversation. So I think that's what you know. A lot of things have happened in a week and a half. So or when it was that I booked that call with him. But I was just thinking that let's just have the conversation no matter what, if he's onto it.
Yeah, nothing bad is going to come out of it. I mean,
No, exactly. Exactly. I just had a coffee date today, but just a casual talk today as well, that maybe it did turn into kind of a coffee date. So just talk to people. That was just my intention. So that's going to be interesting, but I don't have, from what we've just seen now, I don't have very, very high expectations.
Well, we'll do more of these, but more on coffee dates that are leading us into you know, more ideal partnerships.
Yeah.
But I like that you stepped up here and shared this with us, and I appreciate it. And I think it's going to be useful to everybody.
Cool. Yeah.
What else, folks? Anybody got any questions, comments, feedbacks here before we start wrapping it up?
I have a question, Tony. I'm in the position of like I would go on the coffee date tomorrow and still get some practice.
Yeah.
If I were Jacob, but if this were you and you were in a position of like it's not even worth my time, how would you approach that with the how would you have that conversation, or like what would you say in email to still keep it open-ended to maybe a referral? How would you handle that?
Yeah. So where I'm at, this is not somebody I would have reached out to. I would have done my research beforehand.
Yeah, and that was, you know, what I was doing here was I had this template, and I just, you know, I used all my my LinkedIn credential, you can reach out to like 150 people like that in a week. So I just thought I was just searching for people with coaching in the and then some other search parameters, and then just threw that out. And he was other people responded back as well. Quite a few actually accepted, but he was one of them. So so I just thought I would try that approach for starters, and instead of researching and then getting no response, then this might be faster, and then actually research the ones that that responded back. And I think when I read this document that he sent me with there are some large numbers here, 7 million monthly listeners and 2,000 podcasts, and there's some numbers there that to me indicated that he had some audience, some impact, so there might be something to work with. But of course, at this point, it doesn't say that the podcasts stopped, I think about a year or 2 years ago. So,
So, look, to answer your question, Cassie, by the way, I've gone on coffee dates and then realized like they just weren't good. And usually it's because they don't have the audience. Once I really start to dig in, they don't have the email list or to work with it. And it's real simple. I like to put all the onus on me, and I just say, hey, and I've had to do this in chat quite a bit too. I say, hey, listen, I'm absolutely useless to you if I don't have an email list of at least 50,000. It's real simple. It's usually about what it all takes. I'm like, listen, I love what you're doing. I really wish I could help. I'm useless if somebody doesn't have and pick your number, by the way, if it's 15,000, 30,000, whatever you're willing to do, but like 50,000 is like kind of like where I'm at, like minimum. And I'll say, I'm kind of worthless if someone doesn't have at least around a 50,000 person email list or in another 5,000 or 6,000 buyers. I'm just, I'm realized like I've been doing this for a while and I'm a bit useless unless those things are in place. I just put it all on me, and everybody's like, oh, okay. But then it also opens up, say, I'm just curious though. Do you, now that you kind of know where I'm at, do you know of someone who has those kinds of numbers and whatnot that you think could benefit? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I turn it into a referral.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's with being open-minded, then we'll see what happens, but there's a good chance that that's the situation we're gonna be
it's all good.
where I will say something like that, and then see if I can turn the conversation in that way. So yeah,
Cool.
definitely someone who's been around for some time, so he probably has a phone number or two, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Cool.
20 best-selling books. That's one of the things that I noted as well. Thinking about, not that I would be interested in doing anything with books, but maybe some other people would.
Yeah, I'm excited about books right now. As long as somebody has,
That's one of the things as well.
as long as they have a distribution, and they have books, like I'm interested. So, yeah, it's a book I'm excited about.
So, but could this be useful to have books, but the distribution is through Amazon and that's it?
You could. So Basil was just asking. He said, could you also take and repurpose his IP? Don't know what he has, and put that in other distributions. 100%.
Yeah, but that takes time.
Well, it takes.
If he had a little bit of an audience, but it seems like you're really starting from scratch if he doesn't even really have people watching.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, like, there's tons of AI where you could take all of those recordings, all of his videos, and chop them up into social media, like, hits that lead to an email that you start,
Or you could
running for him, and you get commission off of that. But it's kind of a big lift.
Yeah, or you could take his content, repurpose it into Kindle books, and put those out there. That, the thing is I look as I was looking at a lot of his content, he's referencing a lot of like the Zig Ziglars and like the dudes back in the day, like the personal development guys and whatnot. And that's cool. There's always going to be some people that are into that. But there's a lot out there that's like that, like the positivity. It's like, again, I go back and look at like what's unique and different about what he's teaching and sharing that's unique as opposed to other people, that are doing. And so I'm not really seeing a whole lot just based on, now sure, back in the day, Jack Canfield would carry a lot of, weight if somebody endorsed your book like that. Today, not so much, right?
Yeah.
That whole era, that age, those individuals at that age, just they don't have or are holding the buying power today that they would have back when. So I go to look at like, okay, if I was, and I like how Basil's thinking, it's like, how can I take this content and repurpose it? He could, if he got a licensing play, repurpose it and put it, and took 1, 2, 3 books at a time and threw them on Kindle or Amazon, right? But then you're still going to have to, like, I just started up ads for deals over clients today, right? So I'm going to be spending, X amount of dollars a month on Amazon. I'm going to be spending X amount of dollars on Facebook, right? It's like, do you really want to invest at that level on something that's, like how viable is that right now? How unique and different is it, in the marketplace? And so, Cassie's right too. It's like taking that and throwing it up on Kindle is still going to take some effort.
Yeah.
Basil's asking, so is that another criteria you look for, that they need to have something unique about their quote unquote systems? And if they don't, it pass? Yeah, for sure. Because in a world where, in a very noisy world, we have to look for what is it that they're doing that's different, from other people. And the other way I look at it is, it's not only is what is it that they're doing that's unique and different, but when I go to do the marketing or create an offer on it, what am I seeing that they're not, right? This is how I've always thought about offers. And there's a lot of, unique ways about approaching offers. But yeah, one of the criteria is are they doing something unique? Are they already providing some kind of unique, different approach? And the way we frame it is is it a new and exciting way out of that market's problems and issues? And if it's not, how can we position it as something new and exciting?
Yeah. I didn't. When I had this conversation with him, I just saw like some large numbers, and then I thought, what the hell? Why not? Let's try and let him disqualify by putting all this and basically telling him that this, I don't think this makes sense, but if you think it does, then let's have a call. And then he asked for my email address, and then actually I haven't really thought about it since that. Just heard a couple of his podcasts from 2 years ago or something like that. So, but one of the things I noted was the 2 podcasts I listened to were with expert coaches in 2 different fields, and I could see going through that there was a lot of interesting persons that he had on his podcast that looking from what they were doing, that could be interesting to work with. So
well,
the
let me point out
thing might be a valid.
Well, there's a lot of, it is one way to go about it, but I want to point out, that we're looking for deals that are inches away from the goal line, not hundreds of yards. This is one of those deals that's like hundreds of yards away from the goal line, right? We want to be able to come into deals where we can put forth a thimbleful of energy and get oceans of return, right? That's what we're looking for. Can you do deals like where, you go in and repurpose their stuff and do all that? Sure, you could. But again, I'm looking for people, experts, influencers, creators that have already got, as Travis would say, they've got the royal flush. They're just missing one card. might be the 10 of hearts, right? That's what I want to be, that 10 of hearts.
Yeah.
This guy doesn't even have, I don't know.
I don't think there's much.
He's got maybe,
this guy.
listen, he's got maybe 1 or 2 cards.
Yeah.
Maybe 1 card. He's missing 4 of the others. I've got, he's missing all 5 really, but maybe he has 1 card right now, which is kind of like the expert card. And I've got all these people on this stuff. So when we're doing deals, if you want to save yourself time and energy, and I want everybody that's doing deals to save time and energy, because your time and your energy are your most valuable resource. Other people's resources are your resources, right? But you're looking for deals that are inches away from the goal line, not hundreds of yards or even 5 yards away. You're looking for them inches away. Now, if this guy has all this stuff and he's got an email list of 15,000 people and he emails them a couple times a week and they love him, different conversation now.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't have any digital programs, quiet little launch all day long, baby. Here we go.
Yeah. That's what we had in the chat. Yeah.
Right. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
So right now, you got to look where you're the 10 of hearts. You're the quiet little launch. You're the flood maker, right? But you can't be that 10 of hearts if they don't have the other 4 cards.
No.
So if you want to make excellent use of your time and your energy, you'll only spend time and go on coffee dates with people that you realize after you've done your research and before you've had a conversation. Like, do your research, then have a conversation. You get on that coffee date. Get on the coffee date with the people that are inches away. And then your life becomes a lot easier because you'll be able to have those wins much faster, much easier, and you won't be spending your time and your energy on coffee dates that just don't have the other cards that you need in order for it to be a win.
Yeah.
Probably the most important thing I could say that's come from this portion of the conversation.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm not sure what I would have done right now, actually, with this guy, because this was one of the first ones that got back when I started reaching out like that on LinkedIn. So I just thought, let's just jump on everything. But even though then I tried to see if it would make sense at all.
Yes.
So I don't know, maybe he has an email list. Maybe he just didn't get what it was that I was saying. But about what I talked about with the guests on the podcast, what I noticed when I scrolled through that and heard a couple of episodes was that it could make sense to maybe not mention it directly here, but have a good conversation so we had a relationship, and then afterwards I could research some of his guests and figure out if there were any of them that would be like very good partners, and then
maybe he has a guest list,
and maybe I could then reach out to him and say to him, can you make an introduction with this person? And with 2,000 podcast episodes, maybe there would be one introduction or 2 that would make sense to have there. So
you definitely could. It's just, again, look at your time and your energy.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
But I don't know. Maybe I miscalculated that. But from going, I know we're spending time here, and then I'm going on a half an hour call with him. But just one successful introduction that makes that could make a big difference. So, but yeah, again, I don't know what I would actually have done if I had that conversation today.
Yep.
I think maybe I would have just jumped on the call anyway. So, but with low expectations, as we're talking about now.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
But also just from having calls, open-ended calls, it's just it never closes any doors. But yeah, deals closer to the hole would be nice as well, of course. And
listen, they become less. The more you spend energy and time, the more you just go, okay, that's all I'm going to focus my time on. It's possible. Because your time and energy is something you just don't get back.
No, and it sounds simple when you go through it, and when you but I think when you're in it and you look at these things, then maybe I saw something here that is totally debunked now, but that seemed like an actual okay reason to spend half an hour. On
If
this.
you use the coffee date mastery guides and the outreach guides, now you have the outreach guide in the paid group. Right now, the folks in Deals Over Clients have the deal or coffee date mastery guides, which are still incredibly useful and valuable to really make sure that you're staying on track with what your reach outs are and what you're doing. So I created those, based off of Travis's understandings and his research and his experience, for however long, and my own experience now for going on 10 years. They were created, and that way you folks can avoid some of the potholes and, go through these processes and save a lot of time and energy. Cool. Dude, I really appreciate you sharing all of that and putting that on the table. It's super useful, I think. So thank you for that.
It's going to be interesting to see what comes from it.
That's it. Well, folks, anybody else got anything else they want to share or ask question-wise? Because if not...
I have a quick question for you.
Yeah, go ahead, Cassie.
Have you sold, in-person trainings? Do you shy away from those for any reason?
Oh, yeah. I do. I shy away from them, I should say, as a first date, especially, right? I would need to know context, of course, of what you're looking at, but some of my best lists have been built from live events. But for a first date, I definitely would not do a live event. And I probably would leave it, I would have probably several coffee dates. Like, for an example, David Vite has, got a partner, and he's ran four separate successful campaigns that I know of, probably a little more than that. And so for someone like that, where you're kind of embedded and you know the audience and you understand the infinity that's there, then I might do something like that. But I generally tend to stay away from live events just because, they're a little more complicated. There's a little more to it than say digital or offers and things like that, where people can secure those online. But
Okay.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm tied into the blacksmithing community in California and then nationwide. But I have, leading into interests, there's a Damascus Forge, 3-week long, training. Mm-hmm. You go to Virginia and you have a 3-week long. But, I understand that there's limitations because then you're having to find the people that are willing to commit and travel there. But if they already have the email list of people, they've already gone to some of the beginner courses, and now maybe they don't have it on their radar that this 3-week intensive is coming up, to then kind of prime them, maybe reposition the offer a little bit of you get a free accommodations, or I don't know, something. But my mind was kind of how do you spin it and then do something exclusive and then put it in front of the people that are already on that list? But
I think if you're going to do it, that's how you do it, right? You want to work so I had a guy that approached me, or I forget, maybe he was introduced, I can't remember. I think maybe he responded to a post I did, I can't remember, but either way, he had a $15,000 offer, and it was meeting with people one-on-one live, and he wanted to book them. He wanted to do 2 a week, and he had the list, but he wouldn't give access to the list, right?
Okay.
So I couldn't send out the emails, and for that reason I was out. But the money would have been good, like $15,000 offer, and I think it was like 20% or 30%, something like that. But it was selling one-on-one spots, and that's all he wanted. Now, he had the audience. He had like 100,000 person audience, if I'm not mistaken. There was a couple of things there, but the deal killers were, he was like, yeah, I don't give anybody access to my list of mail. I'm like, okay, cool, I'm out. So I ended it. But, it's one of those things where, again, it wouldn't have been the greatest first date, because we're trying to, now you got the calendars and the people booking the planes and all that sort of thing to kind of deal with. But if they've got the audience, they've got the list, you've got enough runway, I call it, right before the event, and which actually can play in your favor, because as it gets closer, it gets more expensive for them to book flights, right? So if you've got the right offer and you've got that relationship with them, then it could be really solid. So yeah, if I was going to do it, that's how I would do it. That's right.
And then the ones that are like anchored, sorry for the noise, anchored with like a certificate, like not, it's the difference between like a hobby to you're trying to do this as a profession and you need this like level of training. I could see where there's a little more incentive there, and then there's always a certain amount of spots.
Yep.
So yeah, anyways, kind of digging in.
Yeah, no, that's a great point to bring up too. I love certifications. Back in 2023, one of the partners I worked with had 12,000 person list. It was built by Live Events, and they had a $2,600 offer. It was a year long. I was like, hey, can we turn this into a certification? And they were like, so funny, we were thinking about doing that. I'm like, let's turn it into a certification. I did 200,000 in like 10 days with that. So anything where certifications are involved, yeah, I love those, because generally they're going to be a requirement. So yeah, good thinking. I like that.
Yeah, thanks, Tony.
Of course. Basil's got a couple of questions here. It says, when you talk about the flood maker and other similar methods, where do we learn about that if we want to learn the different methods, since when it comes time to implement? Basil, I can get you information on that. We've got what's called a T3. It's an offer document. It's a Google Doc. I can send that to you. And he also said, talking about the inbound system, you mentioned a script that network building to send out to warm audiences, but is there a way to modify that to cold audiences? So the inbound system, so that's in the DOC group, the inbound system, or is that in my others? So let's see here. You mentioned a script for networking, for network building to send out to warm audiences. Yeah, I talk about that in the group, and I also talk about that in the DOC school group. Okay, so you're asking, is there a way to modify the network building? Trying to make sure I understand what you're asking here, so I apologize. But is there a way to modify that to cold audiences? You probably could, but again, it takes away. So for me, I like the referral machines. Like the inbound partnership engine is based off of your warm market. The only way around that, really, Basil, is if you offer like incentive. So one of the things I do, if someone brings me a partnership deal and I like it and I run it, I will pay out 10% up to $10,000 of whatever it is that I make on the campaign. So for an example, if I do $150,000 on the campaign in revenue, I'll pay out 10% of what I make up to $10,000. So that, I'm assuming you're asking that question because you don't have maybe a warm market, or you perceive to not think that you have much of a warm market. The beauty is it only takes like one or two people. I had one person in 2023 that referred me one partnership deal, and I ended up paying her, $60,000, $70,000? Like about 70, over the course of 12 months, I paid her $70,000 in referral fees. So, if you look at it that way, it doesn't take a lot of people. You want to be more targeted about who you're dealing with. So when you go cold market, using that outbound, that's why I call it the inbound marketing engine, because I'm leveraging networks. I'm leveraging people I know or people that they know in order to bring those partnership deals to me. The cold is going to be different. It's going to be a lot like one gentleman asked earlier about cold email, but if I was going to do that, it would be in a very specific, narrow category. If I was going to do it, I would imagine it would be the same thing here. I'm just not a real big cold market guy. You know, I like to develop those relationships and such. And if I'm going to reach out to somebody, that I don't know it's going to be more of a cold market, I'm going to do so probably one-on-one, whereas I can actually develop a bit of a relationship there. That's how I'm going to do it. Good questions, though, Basil. Y'all, I got lunch just showed up. So unless you got a real pressing question, it better be real good for me to turn down what looks like chicken. Oof. Yeah, chicken. Baked chicken, rice,